This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Brought to you by Champion Salon and Barber, 2 locations here in Waco, one in Woodway, one just downtown from us on Austin Avenue, stone's throw from where we are right now. Get yourself looking sharp.
By the way, I think this looks great today.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, top 5 best games of the weekend. Number 5, Baylor and Iowa State. A lot of places
in the country?
In the country. And I'm going to defend this. This is 2 teams that are going to knock the hell out of each other up front. They're going to run the ball. It's going to be kind of an old school game, and it's going to be a lot closer than any one of us would have thought a month ago. I think it's going to be a fantastic game.
I hope you're right. They have played some good ones. Even last year when Baylor was terrible, it went into Ames. It seemed to have that thing and just kind of ran out of gas.
No, they threw a pick near the end zone at the very end of the game is what happened. Charlie Brewer threw a pick as they were about the 14-yard line, down a score, and that was that. But, yeah, they've had some tussles here recently. I mean, some true bad blood. Even going back to Greg Roberts swinging on
David Montgomery.
Yeah, swinging on David Montgomery. And
how about Corey Coleman running a kickback when it was 64-7? What else is he supposed to do?
Iowa State fans are going to start crying about that again. You know, that was already a thing that I saw them drag on for years after the fact. I went back and actually watched that. To your point, what was he supposed to do?
It was so huge hole, opened up the sides of this
You would have thought some Iowa State fans wanted him to knee it, and maybe he could have.
I would have been pissed off if I was a fan.
He was 2 years from being a Biletnikoff winner. He was just a young receiver back then who was returning the kickoff, and he ran it back because Iowa State was sorry. But, yeah, I mean, this game, I think it's going to be nasty. I think it's going to be physical. I think a lot will depend, obviously, on the quarterbacks. You know, is Brock Purdy – the stat guy that he was last week, or is he the very shaky player that he was in the first couple of weeks? And Gary Bohannon's been very solid, but he has not faced anything close to Iowa State.
No, absolutely not. Number 4, West Virginia at Oklahoma. This is a game for both teams that's a big measuring stick of where you are. And for West Virginia really has nothing to lose here because, again, they're the team that will play for the upset. But Oklahoma's got to show that they're really Oklahoma. I mean, they got to do it soon.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna have. I mean, they're gonna out talent just some people, and they'll be able to skate by some people. And I think West Virginia could be one of those teams potentially. I do think the Mountaineers should give them a tough fight. This is a week where Spencer Rattler has to actually play like a Heisman contender, and he has not to this point against West Virginia's defense. He's gonna have to do that. I think they can probably have some success on offense. My whole thing with this game is I just don't trust Jarrett Doege. I just don't think he's a good quarterback. He's not a difference maker. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some Garrett Green potentially if things aren't going well. But if Doege gets off to a nice start, then it could get really interesting. But I lean Oklahoma here.
They're almost a 3-touchdown favorite. In the game.
I mean they're clearly the better. Doege's the negative for me with West Virginia. Love the defense. Think they've got good skill guys. Letty Brown had a big game last week, but Doege is very hot and cold.
Yeah. Number 3, Clemson and NC State. Clemson needs to score 3 touchdowns in a game and badly.
You made that sound like they can't. But again, they are really
against the 2 teams that they've played that are in the FBS level. They've scored 3 points and 14 points. And at the end of the Georgia Tech game, a team that is very, very average, they had to keep them out of the end zone at the end to tie the game. So Clemson has shown a lot of holes this year, and mostly on offense. Their defense is still pretty much Clemson's defense.
Is this a division game? It should be, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so NC State now, while they're not going to blow anybody's skirt up most of the time, they can they could put up 4 touchdowns in this game, and then Clemson's going to be like, well, what are we going to do?
They lost at Mississippi State. They scored just 10. They've blown out USF and then also Furman. So, yeah.
We don't really know who they are, but I think this is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, NC State's a solid team. I think this game's all about Clemson and what they look like. I mean, if they look like they have the last, few games, then NC State could be right in the mix. But if maybe they flip a switch, then we start to see that Clemson run that we're all kind of expecting. Although, maybe that doesn't come this year. I mean, they do have plenty of question marks, and something's just a little bit off.
Yeah. Number 2, Notre Dame versus Wisconsin. I think this is the game where we see how physical Notre Dame can really be, because Wisconsin, we heard from Mike Heller earlier, going to muscle them up a little bit. But Wisconsin also cannot let Notre Dame go on any kind of offensive run. And Notre Dame doesn't have what you call a super prolific offense, but they can get up 17 on you in a hurry if you make mistakes.
Yeah, this could end up being 14-11 or something like that too. Good.
Yeah, I suppose so. I lean Notre Dame here. Wisconsin, I do think has puncher's chance, and it should be a very physical game, and should be a lot of fun to see these two teams tangling in Chicago, first time in a really long time. I think the pageantry and all of that is going to be great. I'm not sure how great the game's going to be, but I think it should be a good one.
Yeah. And number 1, A&M versus Arkansas at the Death Star in Arlington. A&M, I'm curious to see if Zach Calzada in his first SEC matchup can get it going, is more comfortable. I'm sure he'll be more comfortable each week. He wasn't ready against Colorado. Was more ready last week. Jimbo said his team's playing very average right now, but this Aggie team is run much like it was in its most successful times by the defense. 3rd nationally, and that's going to, counterpunch with Kendall Briles' offense at Arkansas and see if they can do what they really do. And even when Arkansas wasn't, the darling of, oh my gosh, this team might be good, A&M and Arkansas played some really knockdown, drag-out, back and forth, ridiculous games.
Yeah.
And if not for some really bad coaching on Arkansas's part for a couple of years, they probably win a couple of these games.
I was stunned how they found one way after another, almost what seemed like 4 to 5 years in a row to just blank the bed with the lead and even the ball, and they did.
No, this should be a great game. A&M's defense versus Kendall Briles and the Arkansas offense. I think KJ Jefferson obviously becomes a very important factor here, and how clean he can be with the football for the Razorbacks. But that's another game that I expect to be highly physical, knockdown, drag out. But I go A&M here. Although, Arkansas, if they beat A&M, you got wins over Texas and A&M at this point. I mean, what a start to the year that would be. And just to be in that position of what that win would mean, maybe we start paying a lot more attention to the Razorbacks.
Yeah, you have to go back about 45 years where they beat those two teams in the same year.
That quarterback is 245 pounds.
He's a big
dude.
He
is a big mo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He's very big dude.
And I mean, even his picture.
And he can run. He can chunk it, but I think, we'll see. I think I hate saying this because every game in the Big 12 I was previewing is all about the running game for like every single team and the defenses. So I don't want to focus everything on quarterbacks always as well, because that's kind of lazy. But I really do think Calzada and KJ Jefferson, like who has the better game, is going to matter a lot, although the run games will clearly play a vital role.
All right, Paul, very nice. A lot of you signing off on the chat room. Some of you wanted to know if you like rum or whiskey.